All right, let's try this again. Let's do another example. All right. So just so we can practice, and this, let me scoot this down a little bit. This one is right tail. That doesn't mean they're all going to be. If this would have said less, then we would have done less than. If this would have said different, then we would have done not equal, right? So you have to look at your problem in order to set up that null and alternative hypothesis up front, and then you run from there. Okay, so let me do this. Which do you think is easier to raise, a boy or a girl? When asked this question in 1947, 24% of all Americans said raising a girl was easier. In June of 2018, the Gallup organization surveyed 1,500 adult Americans, of which 408 felt it easier to raise a girl. Does this result suggest a proportion of adult Americans who believe it's easier has changed, to raise a girl has changed? Has changed. Does it say is greater than? Does it say is less than? No, it says has changed, which means different, not equal to. So step one is we're setting this up. Our null and alternative hypothesis. Again, with the proportion, we've got this percentage here, and it says proportion, right? So good tip-offs. So we've got P, and I'm at 0.24 because in 1947, that is what we're starting with. That is what we're saying. That's our null. That's our status quo. That's the info we currently have. That's what's going on. Does not equal 0.24 because it has changed, right? Okay, let's look at step two. Step two here, this is a simple random sample. So we're good there. The second criteria of n p minus 1 minus p has to be greater than or equal to 10. So how many are set up in our new thing? 1,500 adults, right? Okay. Times that 0.24, 1 minus that 0.24. Okay, plug that into your calculator. What do you get? I get 273.6. Do you get that too? Is that greater than or equal to 10? Check. Now let's look at this. Americans, it flat out says it. Americans, do you think 1,500 is less than 5% of all Americans? There are over 240 million Americans. You think 1,500 is less than 5%? Yeah, I do. The sample of 1,500 is less than 5% of all Americans. All right, step two, check. Right? Now let's look here at step three. Step three is whenever we jump into StatCrunch. All right, so let's do this thing. And so we've got 1,500, 408 out of 1,500. Let's scoot it over. Remember, we're doing proportion. So we're taking it stat, proportion, one sample with summary. Scoot it up. Number of successes. I already forgot. Let me look back at my iPad that's in front of me here. 408 out of how many again? 1,500. Can't believe I can't remember stuff for 5 seconds. Am I the only one there? I hope so. I hope you guys are rocking the socks off of this thing. 0.24, because there was my 24. So looking back at our, and does not equal, it's already set. Oh my, double decimal. I don't imagine we need that. We just need the 1 decimal point, don't we? Does not equal because it just says changed. So then we compute that. All right. So let's make it happen, Captain. Scoot this up over here to the corner. Squeeze this over. So we have a p-value. Now, Side note, if we were to do the classic one, we would have to, when we find the classic, you would have to double that. So if you're going through something, you would have to multiply it by 2 because they're saying the two-tail tests are the 2 along the outsides. Let me scoot this over here so you can see what's going on. See these 2 little pieces right here? You would multiply it by 2. So if somebody says something like that to you, that's what they're talking about. When we have it set up already here, StatCrunch does the does not equal, so we don't have to mess with that. It's already set and ready to go for us. The other beauty of using StatCrunch, right? You don't have to mess with all the little nuanced stuff. So our p-value here is 0.0037. Let me line this up again. So number 3 here, my p-value is equal to 0.0037. All right, that's what we're looking for there. And then I know if the p-value is less than alpha, oh, that's an infinity symbol, is less than alpha, then we reject. So let's determine if it is. 0.0037, is that less than, here's my level of significance, which is 0.05. Is it? Yes. Yes. So then that means, yes, we reject the null hypothesis. Let's write our conclusion statement. So if we're going to reject the null, we're going to reject what originally was put there. We're saying, has it changed? Did we say there's more or less? No, no. The test that we are doing says does not equal, has changed. That's all we know. We don't know if it's easier, if they think it's easier, if they think it's not as easy. That's not the test we performed. We performed to determine if it has changed, and it has changed. So there is sufficient evidence to conclude the proportion of Americans, of adult Americans, we should say, the proportion of adult Americans who believe it's easier to raise a girl. It is easier to raise a girl has changed since 1947. Okay. Nice. Pretty awesome, right? So there is sufficient evidence. That's what we need to know. Cool. That's what we have. Now you see an example of what it looks like to reject the null and what it do not reject the null. The process is literally the same, right? And you're just focusing on this p-value because what did we learn? The smaller the p-value, the stronger the evidence against the null statement, right? The smaller the p-value, the stronger the evidence is that we're going to reject. All right? Cool.